Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about the two new uniforms that we have from the Age of Apocalypse update. On the right there we can see Cyclops' new uniform, and on the left here I have now added Beast's new uniform, and I want to break both of them down and basically explain to you guys why neither of them are necessary. I know you guys are probably hoping that I'll say at least one of them is a must-buy or a strong priority, but I honestly think you can just save your crystals or spend them unlocking the world bosses faster, or getting Magneto's pack if you still need to get that, or maybe just saving it for some premium chests that I'm going to open up later, or even Apocalypse's, I don't know, whatever. But let's go into further detail and I'll break down why I think while both of these uniforms may look very cool and may have some semi-significant changes, overall they're not really worth the 750 crystals that you would normally associate a good uniform with. You know, they're nothing like Sharon Rogers' uniform that on top of giving her the stat bump and the very much needed ignore dodge, which is very useful for high-end game modes like Extreme Alliance Battle, World Boss Ultimate, it also changes around her skills. Neither of these uniforms really do that. And we'll start off with Beast, but essentially, when you go into the uniform list, it doesn't do much, and I've already covered this in the patch note breakdown, and I covered it again in the day one update thoughts. But the changes between Hank McCoy as a regular blue nice monster beast and this angry dark beast heavy metal pants version of Hank McCoy is just not significant enough to warrant expenditure. Enhancing the effect of if Scientific Mind is just really not good enough. Scientific Mind being his leadership, instead of being the 45% that it was, it bumps up to 50%. Wow, that's a lot, Sandman. No, it's not. That was the main reason why people thought he would become useful for Extreme Alliance Battle, because on top of having a physical attack leadership that rivals Titania, which this one applies to all allies as opposed to just combat types, so there is that benefit. But in addition to that, also his typing was changed. He is now, instead of on the side of superheroes, he's on the side of super villains. You can't really see, it's cut off by my face, but right next to my face over here it says super villain, and so he can now be paired with Carnage for Extreme Alliance Battle. However, on top of being paired with Carnage, on top of having a 50% leadership, and on top of being able to pass Stars and Garters, which is 55% all attack, 70% all defense, and 20% all speed, the second two, all defense and all speed, is really not that important. If you're playing Carnage well enough already, you should have at least 115 or 120 attack speed, so you're only going to be getting 10% out of that at most. But that 55% all attack is very nice, although it is only for 15 seconds. The ignore defense, again, you should already have ignore defense capped. You're not going to see a big bump in your score. Now, there are some people who have posted videos of them doing, 285 with Carnage, but that isn't a lot more than people were already doing with Carnage. I can already score about 250,000 with Titania and Absorbing Man. So getting a uniform for a character just to score an extra 20 or 30,000 is really semi-meaningless, on top of the fact that we already know, unless Netmarble is hardcore trolling us, that Apocalypse is going to be a combat supervillain, and he's going to be not physical type. It appears that he's going to be an energy damage dealing character as his primary stat, which means that Beast's leadership will not be applicable, in which case this uniform is really temporary and borderline useless. Now, aside from its uses for Beast to be used as kind of a leadership, what does it actually give to Beast? Well, it does definitely make him more flexible for Shadowland, because he can now become a hero or a supervillain. So if you do lack a lot of supervillains but you already have Beast ranked up or even tier 2'd, that could be a shortcut for you to get more longevity and get more run out of your Shadowlands completion, to get closer to stage 15 or 20 or 25 or 30, whatever you're trying to get to. Outside of that, it does change his first skill and it adds a bit more AoE to it. It allows him to do more consistent damage, and I do think it helps him lock down enemies and hit enemies in addition to mobs in something like a wave mode a bit more consistently. other than that, I don't really see a lot of changes to many of his skills, if any of his skills, and I don't really feel a lot of difference when I'm playing him. I'm still prioritizing his third skill and his fourth skill for the iframes, and then I'm periodically doing his fifth skill for the stun and the boost. But otherwise, I'm a bit disappointed with this uniform, and I can't recommend it. On the other hand, we have Cyclops, and this one is a little bit more interesting because I'm not 100% confident in his ability to lead with Cable next to him, but I'm 99% sure or 95% sure that he is not the best leader for Cable. And that's really the only saving grace that I could have cooked up or imagined for this uniform. Now, it does also make him a supervillain character. Again, it's cut off by my face, but it's over here. But being a supervillain is just not enough for a uniform. It will make him better in Shadowlands, absolutely, and Cyclops is already a decent character for Shadowland, unless you need to go quickly, in which case he's not good. But if you're slow and steady and you're not, you know, racing against any clocks, Cyclops is great with or without his uniform. So that flexibility I cannot deny. In addition, he did get a change to his fourth skill, Optic Blast, and it has a much better AoE to it. It does more damage, it deals residual dot, and it's still very easy to cancel and get all that damage from the way that Optic Blast could function. So it's a very good 4 into 5 rotation, and I do like the animation a lot more. Other than that, there's really not many changes. Yes, Ambient Radiation, his 4-star passive, did get a change. It got bumped up from, I believe, 5 or 10% to 15. But overall, when you stack Ambient Radiation with Natural Born Leader, you're still only getting 40% increase to energy damage. 40% still pales in comparison to Star-Lord at 50%. It also pales in comparison to Ancient One at 45%, who can also give you an additional 20 or 25% ignore dodge with the tier 2 passive. That being said, Cyclops still has a team up with his son Cable, so that may be something that we can exploit in the future for Extreme Alliance Battle, or perhaps in another game mode. Attack speed is not the greatest, but crit rate is pretty good. And if Cyclops strikes frequently enough for Cable, there's a possibility it could make a difference to have this uniform for that reason. But he still will have that team up with his son, regardless of whether he has this uniform. And just to be clear for you guys who think that it's Blast Male Hero Day, if you go into the arena and you go to Alliance Battle and you go over to it, it's just Blast Male. So Yellow Jacket can compete in this, Magneto can compete in this. It doesn't matter if you're a superhero or a supervillain. But Cyclops can compete either way, so he doesn't need the uniform to strike or lead for his son Cable. And even then, Ancient One is better. So again, really, why are you buying this uniform? For the aesthetics, for the grunge look, for the fabulousness, for the thick thighs? Sure, why not? Otherwise, borderline useless. I hope that these uniforms do not reflect Netmarble's efforts, you know, in the next couple uniforms that we are expecting, specifically Rogue and Wolverine. I will be disappointed if they put that much effort into those as they did into these two, because I do think that these two were rushed out. They don't feel as bad as the Gamora uniform from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but they're pretty close. Akin maybe to the Spider-Gwen, Gwenpool just taking off the mask type uniforms with just one skill change. However, in those cases, those characters actually needed a bit of a buff. Gwenpool was a bit squishy even with her heals, and Spider-Gwen didn't hit hard enough. In this case, I don't feel like Beast or Cyclops has really moved up enough. If I had to put one's power level above the other, I would say that I think this uniform does more for Cyclops because he was a little bit higher already than Beast, and I think this does push his damage and does push him to the upper echelons of the mutant class as a whole. I think he sits right under Magneto now in terms of the other non-native tier 2 mutants. I think he's definitely better than Storm, Rogue, and Beast. I don't think there's any argument there. Now with his uniform, it doesn't do enough for Beast, and I just overall don't have enough I haven't been convinced enough by the evidence that I've seen firsthand playing with these characters, or that I've heard from you guys in the community, to recommend either of these uniforms. But I am just one opinion and just one voice, so hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of these two uniforms. If you think one of them is really a must buy, make your arguments and I will read them, and if they're really good, I might like them or pin them or reply to them, and perhaps you'll change my mind. Let me know what you think, let me know what your thoughts are, and if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, and of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Hot dog.